If you're a residential real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show's for you. Learn the secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field in order to guide you along your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so that you can turn your commissions into cash flow. I'm Randall McLeod. Let's go, baby. All right. Welcome back. We are talking payroll today. I wanted to bring on a payroll expert because we're growing a business. We're growing a brokerage on our side as well. And there's some growing pains when you are hiring staff and you want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. I brought on Charles Reed from GetPayroll. He is been in the business since, I guess, 91. He's a CPA U.S. tax court practitioner. We talk about that a bit, what that actually entails and why it's good for you if you have somebody like that on your team. He was a former IRS advisory. He was formerly on the IRS Advisory Council. Tells us what that is. I'd never heard of that either. And so we dive into payroll. We talk all things payroll. You're going to learn from best practices, some things to avoid. And we talk about how it affects the brokerage side of the business. We talk about commercial, and if you're hiring property management companies, some things you need to be aware of. Talking to one of my friends who I'm going to have a call with shortly, and you'll find out exactly why. And so we have a good conversation. We just chat about it. Charles is super knowledgeable, so I'm happy to have him on the show. And so let's jump into the episode. All right, Charles, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on today. Thanks for joining me. Why don't we get started and you just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're doing in the payroll space.
Randall, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I've been in the payroll business now for over 30 years. Obviously, I dealt with payroll as a CPA prior to that in various businesses I worked with. But the wife and I started this company back in 91. And we've grown. We're a national scope payroll company providing payroll and payroll-related services to small and medium-sized businesses around the country. We do everything that's involved with payroll. We pay the people. We do all the forms. We do all the filing, all the tax deposits, everything that goes with it. We have other services, including handbooks and HR and deal with workers' comp and group insurance and so on. We have partners that do that. We're not agents, so we don't pretend to sell insurance, but we have people that we trust. And on top of that, our unique selling proposition is compliance. I'm not only a certified public accountant, but I'm a U.S. tax court practitioner. We can take our clients and any problems that arise, and the IRS makes millions of mistakes a year, and we can pursue that all the way through U.S. tax court for our clients if necessary, and have done so successfully.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I saw you're a CPA, U.S. tax court practitioner. I wanted to know what that was and what that entailed.
A U.S. tax court practitioner is a non-attorney who is admitted to practice in front of the U.S. tax court. I have a bar card.
Wow. Okay.
From the U.S. tax court. I am, for all practical purposes, an attorney in the U.S. tax court. I can represent people. I'm counselor. I can go to a hearing. I can present to the judge. I can do anything an attorney can do in the U.S. tax court. When the U.S. tax court was created back in the 50s, one of the congressmen wanted non-attorneys to be able to continue to represent their clients, what had been the Bureau of Adjustments. So that was part of the law, and it's the only federal court where a non-attorney can become licensed to practice. It's arduous. You have to prepare for it, and you have to take an exam at the U.S. tax court that's given once every 2 years in November, and you have to pass it, and less than 10% of the people that take it pass it.
Wow.
There's about 200 of us in the country.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that?
I got my license in 15.
Okay. And so is that just every couple of years you have to retake or retest, or is it just a continued education?
What had happened is the IRS continued to get more obstreperous, and we had more clients, and things came up, and I felt to protect my clients, I needed to go ahead and get that. So starting in about 13, I started the classes, and in 14, I sat for the exam, and in 15, I got my license. So, and it's been very useful. We've solved a number of problems for our clients that we didn't have to involve attorneys or anything else, because I can file for my client a petition with the U.S. tax court, costs $60. That immediately gets sent to docketed appeals, and I get a very competent IRS agent or attorney on the other line, and most of the time it gets settled right then.
Yeah.
We seldom have to go to court because we finally get out of the bureaucracy into an appeals area where they've got very sophisticated people who understand the law and go, yeah, that's just a mistake.
Yeah, that's handy for
and
sure.
It goes away.
Yeah.
But I can do that. My competitors can't.
Yeah.
They'll tell you to call an attorney who will want a $5,000 retainer.
Yeah. No, I've had CPA that I've used in the past, and they have in-house counsel, and it is not cheap when you have to go and do that sort of thing. It's definitely not. And then I also saw that your former IRS advisory, you were on the IRS Advisory Council. What is that? And how does that work?
That's a FACA. That's a Federal Advisory Council group. And there's about 20 of us, and we have a 3-year term, and we actually consult with the IRS on situations and problems. We give them advice. We help them understand the world, because the IRS is very insular. They're very much in their own bubble, and they're not business people. They're not profit oriented. They're not production oriented. They are IRS agents. So we bring to them, and they bring us problems, and we bring them solutions. Every year, if you check, there's a report from the Advisory Council that's about 200 pages thick of various situations we've gone through for the IRS and made our recommendations. And it's quite fascinating. Sometimes they follow them, sometimes they don't.
That covers all industry, and it's really just filing and the tax code that you guys are advising on, essentially.
We advise in all areas of the IRS: small business, large business, international, forms, electronics, everything.
Yeah.
The different parts of the Advisory Council take on different sections each year. So I did mostly small business, and there were like 4 of us that concentrated on those problems.
Yeah. Wow. And only 20 in the country for this council?
Yeah, there's about 20 of us. They bring on about 7 or 8 a year.
Yeah.
And it's a rotating 3-year cycle. So yeah, it was very, very interesting. I met a lot of people at the IRS, which has helped me because, I know the chief of appeals. I know the one of the ladies that served with me on the council became head of the Office of Professional Responsibility, because she was an ex-partner of the new commissioner. So I now know a lot of people at the IRS, which means I can pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah. Yeah. Also handy. Good to know. We're proud to be sponsored by Ridgeline Investment Group. Ridgeline has a track record of transacting more than $53 million in assets throughout Texas. Ridgeline is currently looking to acquire 100 to 200 unit Class B multifamily communities between 5 and 20 million in San Antonio, Temple, Waco, Tyler, and other Texas secondary markets. To learn more about Ridgeline Investment Group, visit www.ridgelineig.com. All right. Well, we were talking a minute ago, the premise of the show, we're a bunch of real estate professionals. We're trying to grow our cash flow, invest a bit, eliminate some costs where we can, and that sort of thing. And so I thought it'd be good to bring you on, and we could talk on the brokerage side when we are growing our businesses and we're hiring new people, new staff that are going to be W-2. Some things that we either need to be aware of, or some things that we can either save money on somehow. So maybe you could speak to that a little bit and give some best practices.
Of course. In small and new businesses, and I don't assume that your people are making this mistake, but a number of entrepreneurs will pay employees under the table. Never do that. Okay. That's the first thing. The next thing is you have to classify them properly. And this is a problem that real estate agents particularly get sideways with, is since they are not payroll, by law, they're not subject to payroll. The people they hire may or may not be. There's a difference between a 1099 or an independent contractor and a W-2 employee. And the law changes. The Trump administration had proposed to change, which when the Biden administration came in, they revoked. and they have issued proposed rules which could cause some, in my opinion, some real problems. So the law changes, and if you're not familiar with it, you need to consult with somebody who knows what the law is on whether a person is an independent contractor or an employee, because misclassification can be very expensive. When you get audited, and you will, if you've misclassified people, they're going to want all those taxes that you should have paid, plus interest and penalties.
Yeah. Can you high level the change Trump proposed compared to what now Biden? Just because I feel like it's going to be another run up in the next election. These two going head to head. So
the big thing with the Biden proposal, which is going through the process now and will probably be approved, is that if it is in the normal course of their business, then it is that person is an employee. Okay. So when, for instance, Walmart hires a company to clean the parking lot, is cleaning the parking lot a normal part of the business? Well, yeah. Therefore, they're employees. So it is a much, much broader definition of what an employee is than what has been in the past. So it should bring in a lot of people into employee status that haven't been, which is what the government wants. The government wants to withhold and collect taxes. If taxes are withheld and reported, the compliance level is about 99%. If taxes are reported but not collected, which is in 1099ers, that rate of abiding by the law falls into the mid to low 90% rate. If the income is neither reported nor withheld, the compliance rate drops into the 20% range. So the government wants everybody on a W-2 where the earnings are reported and the taxes are withheld and deposited. That's the goal of the government.
So let me ask then, under that scenario, if we are getting photos done of a property, because that's what we have to get our listings put up, whether it's commercial or residential, using that person because it's in the normal course of our business, would that, in your eyes, under the way he's proposing it, would that fall into an employee status? Because that to me is just a check, or like a contractor even coming to a property to fix something because it's in the normal course.
That's very possible that if they're used on a regular basis, they could be an employee under the new law. That's one of the problems. California changed the law on contractors and then had to revise it because of all the unintended consequences. All of a sudden, everybody in the movie sets became an employee, though they only worked for 2 weeks. So, and they worked on movie after movie after movie, but for different people. All of a sudden, they were employees. Truck drivers became employees. Literally, if you hire somebody to pick up clients and bring them out to a property, they may be an employee.
Yeah.
You may find that Uber driver is now an employee of yours.
Yes. How do you even do that? On a short-term basis, hiring somebody? Yeah, that'd be a nightmare, honestly.
It would be.
So, okay. Well, that's good to know. And you think that's going to pass? You think that's going to come to fruition?
Yeah. It is in review, and there are public hearings on it, but the only person that could stop it would be the president or the labor secretary, and neither one of them is going to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's going to become regulation.
Okay.
Not law, but regulation.
Keep your eyes open for that, everybody. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So that's one thing on the brokerage front. So we are going out. Let's assume just current law, current regulations. We're going out. We're hiring an assistant. They're coming on, and then we have to hire other support staff and that sort of thing. So they're all going to be W-2 employees.
Absolutely.
On commercial properties that I've been looking at, and property management companies that I've been talking to for large multifamilies, I recently interviewed one, and they came back to me and said, "Hey, we can keep costs down because all of our people are 1099s." And so that didn't make sense to me, how you'd have an on-site property manager in an office, regular working hours, how they would be doing that. So I was wondering, asking you, the man,
we have
how is that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We have a number of multi-family properties that we do payroll for.
Yep.
And what that person you were interviewing was doing is tax fraud. And that's a felony.
Okay.
Okay. That person that is the on-site manager is an employee. There's no question of that.
Correct.
And to treat them as a 1099er and to not withhold and report taxes and pay the employer share of Social Security and Medicare is tax evasion and tax fraud, and is every time they write that person a check, the maximum potential penalty is 5 years in the federal penitentiary and a $10,000 fine. Every check they write.
Yeah,
it's not worth it.
No, I agree. I was shocked and I didn't understand, me just wanting to know. I'm glad you were on because I literally had this conversation yesterday. And it was, okay, I'm going to definitely ask about this. Like, how is that even possible? Is there something I don't know? Okay. All right. So it's pretty basic.
They need to go talk to their CPA and get some advice, because and here's what will happen. At some point, the state unemployment people will come out and audit that operation. Okay. And they will look at all the books and all the checks and all the W-2s and all the 1099s. And when they determine that that on-site manager is an employee, they will issue penalties for all the state unemployment that wasn't paid. And if you're not nice to the state auditor, he will refer that case to the Internal Revenue Service. At which time the IRS auditor comes out and you are now looking at all kinds of grief. The chance of going to jail are slim, okay? That normally doesn't happen. But taxes, penalties, and interest, and I've seen businesses put out of business because of that, because it's so massive of a penalty and fine that they can't afford it.
Yeah, I mean,
because they've done it for years,
yeah,
and all of a sudden they have to pay it all back in a lump sum, or try to negotiate an installment agreement.
Would you, this is advice for my buddy who's actually, I think, hired them and told me about them. Would there be an issue to the operator? Again, this is kind of getting in the legal side of things, but so I go out, I own the building, but I hire a property management company and they're operating like that. If I didn't know about it, obviously I wouldn't want to hire them if I knew about it, but is there blowback? I mean, that alone, those fees to that business would kill that business, I imagine. It's like, I can't.
There shouldn't be to the property owner that hired the management company.
Yeah.
Now, if he knew that was going on and said to the owner of the management company, yeah, that's fine.
Let's rock and roll. It's saving me money. Yeah, let's go. That type of thing.
That is called collusion to commit tax fraud. Okay. If he doesn't know about it, then that's okay. But the moment he knows about it and agrees to it, then you have, collusion and conspiracy to commit tax fraud.
Yeah.
And that's a felony. I don't recommend using people like that. You're just asking for problems. Amazon got into problems. Boeing got into problems. Walmart got into problems. Major corporations have gotten into problems by knowingly working with people who are misclassifying employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'll certainly have that conversation with it. It was surprising. Again, I just was wondering if there was some kind of way. So bringing it back to, I guess, the brokerage side, then when we are hiring people and they're coming on, at what point does it make sense to actually go out and get a payroll company compared to just managing it in-house or through QuickBooks or something where it's relatively straightforward and easy?
First employee, it just doesn't make sense to do it in-house. Yeah, QuickBook, QuickPay, it sounds great. It's relatively expensive. And when you have a problem, you got to you type in to computer chat and get no answer. Okay. It's best to use a payroll company that understands your business, can work with you, can be proactive. We send out information to our clients literally every week about things and changes that they need to be aware of. And when we have specific for a specific industry, we go to our clients in that industry and say, beware of this. This is happening. We're in all the states, so we get updates regularly on all that thing. We advise on minimum wage changes. We advise on changes in disability and all these kinds of things that are changing constantly. And if you're not in the business, you won't be up to speed on them. We keep our clients out of problems because we're up to speed on it all. We don't let them unknowingly step into holes that they don't know about.
Yeah. Are you guys
that's
pretty
the key?
Yeah. Are you guys pretty industry agnostic? You're across, or do you focus mainly on one type of business?
We're agnostic. We deal with dog groomers. We deal with real estate agents. We deal with doctors, lawyers. I had a prophet for a client. Okay. So.
A prophet. I'm thinking
literally
like money profit. Okay. Yeah.
No, he was a prophet. He had a prophetic center over here in the suburbs of Dallas.
Yeah.
And he was a prophet. And we did his payroll. I guess he knew he was going to get into problems if he didn't.
Like, who does he have on staff?
All the people to count the money.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I was going through and I was taking a look at your site, and you had something on there about Bitcoin conversion and attracting more employees. Can you talk to that a little bit and just give me
sure. We're the first payroll company to have for our clients the ability for their employees to get part of their payroll in crypto. We have one that's truly just cold storage Bitcoin. And then we have another one that goes through an exchange, and they can pick whatever crypto they want and convert it as they choose between the various coins and services.
So how does that even work? How did you guys set that up? What wallet are you using?
We're using NYDIG for the cold storage. And Michael, who's the hedge? We're using a hedge for the exchange.
Okay.
And they're set up to deal with us, and it's all electronic. It goes through our bank to their national bank, where it's held and then converted in the exchange. So we're not going through some third party. It's ACH from the client's bank to our bank to the exchange's bank. So it's very, very protected. It's very high level in security. We're not interested in moving our clients into crypto that doesn't get there. Now, we make no representation on the investment quality of the crypto. Don't. We've seen what's happened to Bitcoin in the last couple of years, but
yeah.
If employees, and there are some, we are doing some of it, that are interested in this, we give that availability, and we're the first payroll company to do so.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the adoption rate is on that across your companies. It's
not great. We've got a lot of companies. Restaurant workers don't do it. Oil field workers don't do it. There's a lot of people that just aren't interested in it. But we've got some high-tech entrepreneurs, and they're people, and they're kind of interested in it. And we have some adoption in those types of, frankly, the younger employees.
Yeah. It seems
like me, no.
It seems like an easy way. It's almost like you're just adding to your dollar cost averaging type of deal, right? You just say, I want 10% of my income coming in Bitcoin, and you're just buying Bitcoin at whatever the spot price is that day. Is that kind of how it operates?
Exactly. At the end of that day, when it gets to NYDIG or hedge, at the end of that day, it can be converted into either Bitcoin or into the coin of your choice at the spot rate at the end of that day.
Yeah, that's interesting. What made you guys want to do that? How did you even get to set that up?
I try to be forward thinking and progressive, and I'm a poker player, and a lot of the kids at the poker tables, the young hotshots were heavily into crypto. There's not near as much conversation since Bitcoin crashed, but and I said, we talked about it, and it just became, this would be a service for the younger generation that's interested in this stuff, and it would be. There's a lot of things in the payroll that are old fashioned, but we try not to be. We try to be leading edge on this stuff. We don't like to be bleeding edge, but we like to be leading edge. And so we just thought it might be a good service, and we called around to some people, and we found in NYDIG and Hedge companies that were already doing it internally for big companies.
Yeah, got it.
But we said, can we set this up for our clients? And they said, sure. And so they had to do some programming to set it up, but they already had the concept in place for big companies to be able to do it internally for them. So it wasn't a huge step to go to a service bureau like us. We just set up each company as we go, and each employee gets to choose whether they want to or not and how much they want to invest. And they can change it every payroll if they want to. We don't care.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so they just log in. I'm like, yeah, give me 20%. Bitcoin's down today. Give me 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super easy. I think if I were an employee, I would definitely be taking that and doing some of that, because it eliminates some of the friction of going in and finding, getting into to one of the platforms, buying it yourself. You can just do it relatively quickly and easily.
Yeah, I mean, and this is rather than a 401k plan, which the employer has to set up.
Yeah.
This is something that once the employer authorizes it, each employee has the choice to do what they want, how much they want, when they want, and so on and so forth, and direct it through the exchange into what they want, and so on. So it's a simpler way to invest in crypto than setting up for an employer, a small employer, a 401k or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about a lot of that. I wonder if there's on the payroll side. So I've been talking about setting up a fund for real estate agents and professionals to invest in a fund to go then deploy that capital into multifamily and that sort of acquisition type thing, because there is no retirement account for real estate professionals. Like, it just doesn't exist.
Exactly.
In 99. And so you're not taking any of your commissions in crypto right now. You go out and you just buy your own crypto. But your employees, you can offer that. So let's talk a bit about, I know you said you just wrote a book and you're in the top 25. Let's talk about your book a bit and get a plug in there so that I can see what you're pushing there. Oh, this little guy?
Pushing. Yep. The payroll book.
Yeah.
A guide for small businesses and startups.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry for many years, and I looked around because I get questions all the time. And I wanted to see if there was something out there that I could refer to my clients and so on. And there really wasn't. There was an older one done up by Payroll that was like 20 pages. And then there's the Payroll Source, which is put out by the American Payroll Association. It's a big, huge, thick book, and it's $600, and it's designed to train certified payroll professionals for the exam. It's a very unapproachable book. So I said, hey, I'll write something. 2 years later, we produced it. Luckily, one of my clients, who's also a publicist, knew people at Wiley. And so she put me in touch with the Wiley people. They're the ones that do the Dummies book.
Yeah.
They didn't want it as a Dummies book, but they wanted it in their professional area. So we published through Wiley, and they helped with the book, which their help was just absolutely amazing. I've self-published before. I won't do it again if I have a choice.
Yeah.
They were instrumental in the layout, in the editing, in the indexing, and the promotion of it, and they made it a much, much better book. Obviously, we don't sell a whole lot of them. I mean, that's a very dry subject, but it's a good book. It's a good reference book for small businesses.
Yeah. So it is for the small business owner. It's not like a peer-to-peer type book.
It's for anybody who's not a payroll professional.
Yeah.
If, IBM has payroll professionals and HR professionals on staff.
Yeah.
Okay. So does General Motors. But if you're 250 people, 500 people, you probably have an HR specialist who has a lot of this knowledge. But if you're 20 people or 30 people, you don't have a professional with this knowledge on staff. This is a reference book for you to go, let me check that out. Let me check the index and see if there's something there. There's a lot of horror stories in there. There's a lot of examples. There's a lot of things not to do. And there's a lot of information about payroll taxes, legalities, doing payroll, and associated things, illegal aliens, handbooks, workers' comp, other things that are useful to small and medium-sized businesses if they don't have an HR professional and payroll professional on staff. Basically, you're hiring a $100,000 a year person in getting the book.
Yeah, solid. So in the book, or just from your knowledge, what would you say is the number one mistake that people hiring someone make when they're making their first hires? Misclassification? You just spoke about that a minute ago.
Misclassification is the biggest one. The next biggest one is not knowing everything you need to know. Which reports you have to file, which states you have to file in, when you have to make deposits, when you have to send forms in, the difference between a 941 and a 944, the difference between W-2 and 1099. When do I make the payments? Who do I make them to? Where do they go? What do you mean I have to set up for electronic payment of this? On and on and on. That's the biggest thing. They don't know what they don't know. The book will give them a lot of it, but I truly recommend, if you're not going to read the book, and you should have it on your desk, Payroll Service Bureau is the best way to go. You'll get somebody, hopefully like me, a CPA, a professional. I wouldn't go with one of the huge companies because you'll only deal with a clerk and a salesman. But when I get that big, I'll say something different, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's like, what does your staff look like? How many people do you guys have on?
I've got a dozen people here.
Yeah.
So it's a nice size group, and we're able to do a lot more payroll now with less people because of technology and software and so on.
Yeah.
So
you see a problem. You see any ChatGPT, AI taking over some of the payroll world, or what? Staying on the bleeding edge.
I really don't, because all these things are expert systems that are programmed in, and they're fine and good. And I've got the premier payroll software already, but there's a lot of things that are interpretive and just have to be done by humans. I just don't see AI taking over. Now, some of the AI that you see in science fiction, of course, they can do anything, but ChatGPT has its bias and so on. We have a video on exactly that thing. So,
yeah, nice.
we did a video with two of our clones talking about what payroll company to use, and they went to the AI and asked them which one they should use, and of course, the answer was us. But
yeah, nice. Yeah. Get it in. Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I should have asked that I haven't asked you. I'm kind of, on the payroll subject of just hiring people, bringing them on. Again, on the brokerage side of the business, anything that we should be aware of, anything we should think about when doing that?
One of the things that happens is the IRS makes millions of mistakes a year. Okay. And if you don't know how to handle that, there becomes a real problem. Many people just write the check, whether they need to or not, because they don't understand what they have to do to fight the Internal Revenue Service. Fighting the Internal Revenue Service is a lot of no's followed by a single yes. It's just like sales. You keep appealing and appealing and appealing and appealing until you get somebody who says, yeah, okay. And then you say thank you and go away. So if you don't know what you're doing with that, it's very, very difficult. And if you're dealing with a clerk at many of the payroll companies, they'll just tell you to talk to your CPA. Well, if your CPA was a payroll tax expert, he'd already be doing your payroll. So you need to go find somebody to help you. That's where we come in with compliance, is we solve those problems. The next biggest thing is if you make a mistake and the IRS penalizes you, the IRS cannot penalize you for a simple mistake. They can only penalize you for gross negligence. The problem lies in who defines gross negligence.
Yeah.
Okay. The IRS says everything is gross negligence. The courts say something different. So if you make a mistake and the IRS penalizes you, ask for it to be abated. In 2019, prior to COVID, $13 billion of employment tax penalties were levied by the Internal Revenue Service. Several $billion, $5 to $6 billion, were abated, which means they were issued in error. But if you don't know how to fight the IRS on that, you won't know what to do.
Yeah.
So the compliance expert that we are allows us to fight for our clients effectively and get those penalties, in many cases, reversed and abated.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like if you are hiring, start with a payroll company. Don't try to go alone. The benefits outweigh the cost. And
long before I got in the payroll business, I outsourced payroll in any company I was running or was headed the accounting for and so on. It just wasn't worth the trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to be a stockbroker and an investment advisor. I gave up on that because you can't do both. You can't be effective at all the payroll and payroll law and employment taxes and do investments over here. You can't be everything to everybody. So I focused on this, and we allow our clients to focus on their business and not have to worry about payroll. They don't have to become a payroll expert. They got one in their back pocket for a few dollars a month.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're part of the team with a CPA, a bookkeeper, and you guys.
Right. And they can call me.
Yeah.
My phone number is 972-353-0000. Any of my clients can call me at any time. And if I'm in the office, I'll take the call. And for your listeners, if they got a payroll question, there's the number. Call me.
Yeah.
If I can just answer it off the cuff, it's free.
Awesome. Yeah. What about how do we get it? How do we get that book?
If your listeners will go to the payrollbook.com, the website, and enter the discount code podcast, we will ship them free of charge a copy of the book.
Ooh,
no
nice.
Shipping, no handling, free of charge as long as supplies last.
That is an awesome plug. Yeah. Go to, what is it? Thepayrollbook.com.
Thepayrollbook.com.
Put in podcast and you'll get the book. That's awesome. Well, Charles, why don't we leave it at that? I mean, I think it's been very helpful just getting to understand that side of it and chat with you a bit. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us today. If anybody has any questions, by all means, reach out to Charles Reed at, as you can see, GetPayroll. If you're watching the video, he's got a few logos in the background. It's awesome setup you've got. But yeah, thanks for jumping on. Thanks for sharing your information. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Did you know that 80% of the agents we speak with got into real estate in order to gain passive income so they could obtain financial freedom and become work optional? If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. We'll catch you on the next episode.